Hi, welcome to another video from TOGAtech. My name's Dave. In today's video we'll be making the annunciators for my Boeing 737 overhead panel. I've got a couple here and I've got one wired up so you can see it's backlightable. Okay, well let's get on with the make, and if you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Hi, if you've seen my previous video on building this flight control panel for the Boeing 737 overhead, you'll know that we've got annunciators here and switches. Now I wanted to come up with a way of activating the annunciators and the function on FSX just using a toggle switch. I didn't want to go down the route of using MobiFlight, which is excellent, but it's a little bit more involved. And as I'm not flying with any faults built in, anything like that, to have engine failures or anything like that, I'm only going to use the annunciators that are necessary for takeoff and landing, starting from cold and dark, etc. So on this panel here, the flight control panel, the only one that will be used is the yaw damper switch. So all I'm going to do is wire up so that I've got the switch and the annunciator for the yaw damper working on this panel. And it will be the same with other panels. On the fuel panels, I'm only going to use the fuel pump lights, etc. on there. So I was trying to think how to do this. Now I'm going to use a Leobodner 64-pin I/O card. This will send the signal to FSX to say what function's been activated by my toggle switch. Now, independent from that, obviously I need to illuminate or extinguish my annunciators. Now, the way I came up with this is using a double pole, double throw on toggle switch like this, and a couple of LEDs in a 3D printed annunciator box like this. You can see that properly. What I'll do is I'll leave a link to the STL file for this box. Just a tiny little box there, but I can fit two 5mm LEDs into the bottom of it. Just push fit into the hole. A little bit of hot glue will secure them in place. And what we want to do is find out a way of getting this switch to illuminate or extinguish the annunciator depending on what position and what panel it's in. Because as I said, in the flight control panel, when you activate the yaw damper, the annunciator extinguishes. When it's off, the annunciator is alight. It's illuminated, which is different to like your anti-ice panel and your windscreen heat panel. They actually illuminate when you turn the function on. Okay, so we've done a little test rig here to see if this will work. And what I've got is I've got a 12-volt supply coming in here. Now this is my double pole, double throw on switch. That one there. One side of that switch is going to be used to, this part here is going to go to the pins on my input output card. So go to the I/O card. So when it's when that's activated, it will tell FSX that I want the yaw damper on. The other side of the switch, because this is a double pole, double throw, so it's actually essentially two switches, two independent switches activated by one lever here. The other side of that switch is going to send power to my LEDs to illuminate my LEDs. So the way I've got this wired, I'll leave a link in the description below for the circuit diagram and a link to where you can purchase all the parts I've used here. It's a bag of 50 white LEDs, bag of 50 yellow LEDs for like fuel pumps, etc. that require yellow LEDs. Now, what we've got, because we've got a 12 volt supply coming in here, now the white LEDs can only take a maximum forward voltage of 3 volts. So we need to reduce our 12 volts coming in to no more than 3 volts going through the LEDs. And with the yellow LEDs, it's actually 2 volts. So we've got to reduce that 12 volt to 2 volts coming through. You can use a lower power supply, but I just happen to have a 12 volt here. But you still will need to vary the voltage using this resistor here. Now, I found a way of calculating the resistance you need here using a nice little program that I downloaded. It's called Circuit Wizard. I'll leave a link in the description below to that software where you can actually build up circuits on your computer and simulate the circuit so you can see if it works. You can even use probes or virtual probes to check voltages at various points or current flow at various points along the circuit. Superb piece of software, worth looking into. So let's just run through my little test rig here. Got a 12 volt supply. That 12 volt, the positive of that 12 volt goes to pin 2 or terminal 2 on my on double throw switch, double throw double pole switch. Then it comes out of terminal 1 here, goes through the resistor. This is a 1 kilo ohm resistor. Comes out the other side of that resistor to the anode of my LEDs. Now there are 2 LEDs in this box and they're wired in parallel. The anode is the longer leg of the LED. So it comes off of that resistor and goes to the long leg of the LEDs, which are your anode. And then it comes out, the wire comes from the cathode, which is the shorter leg of the LED, and that goes back round to the negative terminal of your 12 volt supply, and that completes the circuit. Now this is just a little loose annunciator panel. I'll just pop that on top there so you can see. And then when I activate my switch, there you go. The annunciator is illuminated. Turn it off. Now the other side of the terminals on this switch, so when this is, the lights are off, this is still closed a circuit, which is closed this circuit here, which this will be connected to my I/O board, this one here, on one of the pins. So I'd connect that, say we take pin 1, connect that on pin 1, so it's pin 1 and pin 1 ground, like that. So when, in this case like your damper flight control panel, when the annunciator is off, the function is active. So now this is actually sending or closing these 2 pins, telling this I/O card to tell Microsoft FSX that the yaw damper is on. And then when I switch it to the other position, it disconnects this side. So this is telling FSX that the yaw damper is off. and when the yaw damper is off, the annunciator light illuminates. I hope that's clear. As I say, I'll leave a link to all the circuit diagrams in the description below, as well as a link to where you can purchase all the parts necessary. And right, here we are back again. This, as I say, is the temporary setup with the IO or Leobodner control board, the on double pole double throw switch, our annunciator there with the two white LEDs in. So what I'm going to do now is wire this up on this piece here so it's permanently wired. So I'll just move this out of the way and we'll solder this one up. So here I've got an annunciator with two white LEDs in there. This is the cathode, this is the anode, this is our 1K resistor, 1 kilo ohm resistor, and that's our live one that goes to the switch. So I'm going to solder these all up now. Just got the soldering iron set up, and we'll solder these together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue the LEDs in the annunciator there. Hot glue gun. Hot glue them in so they don't move around. So it's hot glued in place there, lovely. And let's get my little handy jig here, help me do the soldering. So let's have a look at putting this into the panel now. So we get our flight control panel. So our flight control panel is our yaw damper. Annunciator's got to go in there. Just feed the wires through. The annunciator should be the right size just to fit straight in that hole. Yeah, there we go. Straight in. I'm just going to secure it at the back here, again with a little bit of hot glue. And here you can see I've already fitted one of my on-on switches. So if you refer to our wiring diagram, you'll be able to see which leads go to which. I think it was pins 1 and 2 for this one. This goes to our negative supply of our voltage, our power supply, which is 12 volts in this case. And this goes to terminal 1 of our switch. So coming off of pin, so the anode of the LED goes back to pin or terminal 4 on our switch. Then we want to come out of terminal 5 on our switch and go back to our power supply. Terminal 5. So that's our terminal 5. It goes back to our positive supply, our 12 volts. And that is the circuit complete for the annunciator. So if I just test that, I'll just wire this to my test power supply. 12 volt test power supply here. So that's a neutral or a ground. Wire that to that. That's our positive. These are just temporary connections. Okay, so at the moment, just turn it over gently. Turn it on. Lights come on. Turn it off. Now this is actually in the wrong direction because I want the lights on when the system is permanently on. And the lights go off. Sorry, the lights on when the yaw damper is off. And when the yaw damper is on, the lights go off. So at the moment it's working in the reverse order. So all I've got to do is just turn that switch around. Just rotate that switch gently. And then we'll fix it in permanent position once we've got that right. So at the moment it's saying the yaw damper is on, so the lights are off. Yaw damper off, the lights are on, which is perfect. That's the right way round. Then the only other thing we have on the back here is the other two terminals, which are terminals. We're using terminals 4 and 5 for this circuit. So terminals 2 and 3 will go directly to our I/O card, or to this I/O card here. So we'll run a pair of wires off for terminals 2 and 3, and they'll go to one of the inputs on our I/O card. And that's it. All that's left to be done now is, if you just flip that over for a second, is to stick the annunciator sign, the your damper sign on the top there. So just pop that in position, glue that in position. The annunciator on. There you have it. So your damper on, no light showing, your damper off, and you've got the annunciator showing your damper. Perfect. Yep, very pleased with that. There we go. So the only other two connections to go on the back there are the ones to the I/O port. And that's it. All I've got to do is make up about 100 of these and start fitting them in my other overhead panels. Okay, thanks for watching. See you soon. Well, thanks for watching this video. If you have any comments or any suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell to catch your future videos. Okay, well thanks again for watching TOGAtech, and I'll see you next time.